How's it going, guys? Odds and Ends RC here. Please like and subscribe. If you've seen my prior videos, I've been building one of these Jeep JK hard bodies, China hard bodies, on this SCX10 China clone chassis. Basically, it's the same concept as the regular SCX10. I go over in a previous video how to fit the body to the chassis. But one of the ingredients for this to work is you need what I found, one of these SSD scale transmissions. I've used a metal one in the past, and they also recently come out with this plastic one, which is a little cheaper. It's about $100. And so I'm gonna put it together in this video and fit it in the Jeep. And if we have time, I might move on to the shocks, installing and filling the shocks I'm going to use on this rig. But yeah, hang on, I'll put you on time lapse and we'll put this thing together. Alright guys, got this thing together. It wasn't too bad. If you have any builder's experience whatsoever, it'll go together pretty smooth. I went on the SSD website and downloaded the manual, the instructions on putting it together. When you buy the transmission by itself, it does not come with instructions. You have to look them up online. About the only real thing, one thing that kind of sucks is to get your motor off. You have to take all 9 of these bolts out. So I wouldn't recommend Loctiting them or anything, but you do have to take 9 of them out just to get the motor off. When you first start off with this step, just put like 2 bolts in on here. You'll need to put your pinion on first. Don't Loctite it yet. Just put your pinion on They recommend your pinion not be any higher than 20 millimeters from the motor face, which is kind of hard to measure. So just put this on with a couple bolts. After you put your pinion on, put your motor on, join your motor to this black plate, and then just stick this on there with a couple bolts, and then your next gear assembly will kind of judge how high you need your pinion to be. So once you kind of figure out how high your pinion needs to be, then take this back off and get your pinion at the right height, Loctite it, and then Loctite your 2 motor screws, and then go ahead and continue on. Other than that, it's pretty self-explanatory. Really easy, nice, smooth. Like I said before, I had the metal transmission, but this is the first time I have in the plastic one, and I'm overall impressed with it. One thing I will have to do is it comes with the SSD skid plate, and I will have to put this in. The one that came with this clone chassis doesn't have the right bolt hole set up for it, so I'm gonna go ahead and take that out and switch that out real quick and get that transmission mounted in there, and then we'll go over it after that. Alright guys, I got this thing mounted in there. Pretty straightforward, just pretty much goes right in there, nothing to it. One issue I ran into though is, like I said before, I've done this a couple times before, but I always bought the SSD metal transmission, the aluminum one, and I thought they were designed somewhat the same, but they're not. And I noticed after I installed it in here that the motor sits quite a bit lower than the aluminum transmission. With the aluminum one, it's set up almost above the frame rail, and this one here, it sits down below it quite a bit, which ain't too big a deal. There's a couple issues. First one is when the suspension was going all the way down, I was hitting the third member up here, the upper link. For now, I just scooted it over on the outside there, and I've got good suspension travel now. Nothing hits, everything works. The one obstacle I have to figure out yet is I just had a spare drive shaft laying around, and when I put it on the front, it kind of rubs up against the transmission right here. Fix for that would be to find a skinnier drive shaft. I had a SSD drive shaft, which is kind of fat. There's some skinnier ones out there RC 4-wheel drive makes. I think what I'll ultimately do is just get the SSD Pro 44 front end, and it has a offset pumpkin that would take care of all the issues. Just kind of letting you guys know that it's one of the problems I ran into with using the plastic transmission versus the aluminum one. I mean, it's nice that it gets your center of gravity way lower, but it kind of gets in the way of activities on, your suspension and stuff. But I moved that link over, and that fixed that problem. We just kind of got to play around with the drive shaft issue and find a skinny one that won't rub the transmission right here. But other than that, I'm going to move on to the body here. I kind of set the body on there, kind of marked where I need to cut it out. This plastic transmission is shaped a little different, so it does require a little trimming on this body, but not much. I'm going to take this little screw out there and just kind of cut a notch out. I'll show you when I'm done, but it won't affect the interior. There's a gap behind here, and then the I think it's the center console on the inside, but there's plenty of room. It won't get into the interior, but yeah, I'll show you when I'm done. All right, guys. I got her in there. I gotta admit, it took a little bit of fiddling. This plastic SSD transmission just sits a little differently than the metal one did. If I had to do it again, I would probably buy the metal one, even though it is $50 more. But it took a lot less fiddling to make that work. But either way, I got it. She zoomed in there. See, I got it in there. Took a little bit of trimming on the body, and I had to trim on the skid plate. This popped off, and I kind of show you, but I did not have any intrusion inside. Did not have to cut any holes in the interior, and that's what I was going for. Let's get this off here. In the process, I had some inner fender wells laying around. I'm not sure what brand they were. They've been laying around for years. One of them was even kind of melted from a engine fire I had years ago. But I whittled around on them. I had to cut out quite a bit to clear for the headlight buckets inside the Jeep body. If I had to do it again, I don't know if it's really worth the time of doing it. But once it's up in there, it doesn't look too bad. But anyway, back to the transmission. You can see I got her in there. To make this work, I had to do some whittling. Here's the bottom of the body. I had to cut this notch out for the transmission to clear. And then back here, the transfer case part. I don't know if it would have hit or not. Once I figured out I had to trim some off the skid plate, probably wouldn't have had to cut this hole. You just kind of do it by trial and error. But got to fit in there nicely to where nothing rubs. I just took a hobby knife, a Dremel tool, just kind of kept whittling it out. Check fitting it, going back and forth, putting the body on, taking it off, till I finally got everything to where it wouldn't clear. You could take this center console out if it helps you any. You take the dash out. It's held on by one screw. And the center console, you just take this back screw out. There used to be another screw here. And you can take that out of the way if that helps you, see what you're hitting. But a little more cutting than I wanted to do. But like I said, that metal transmission, you didn't have to cut any of this out back here. You just had to cut out a small area up here. And that's why I like the metal transmission better. Plus, the motor set further forward with the metal transmission. So if you do use like that SSD engine cover, scale engine cover, it'll look better. This one, the motor sits kind of back real far. Just a totally different design. But okay, what I had to do to this is I didn't realize it until toward the end, but where this mounts on this plate, you got 4 screws, 2 there, 2 up there. There's quite a bit of meat on that plate. Here's some random other plate I got, kind of show you. But the SSD one is made its similar way to where it has these ridges sticking up. So what I did is I took the Dremel tool and I just kept trimming it down and trimming it down. And I was able to grind off about 1/8 of an inch off of this. So this transmission sits 1/8 of an inch lower than it used to, and that gained a lot of help in getting the body to sit down on there. I should have did that in the first place before I started cutting on the body. It probably would have saved me a lot of time. But now you know, you can easily take about 1/8 of an inch off of this skid plate here, and that allows for that transmission to sit lower in the back. Other than that, I was pretty happy with it. Like I said earlier, this transmission is fatter than the metal one. So I had an SSD drive shaft laying around. I put it on here, and it barely rubs the side of the transmission case under. Let me go down with the cycle the suspension. It's because I'm still running the center mounted front end. With the metal transmission, I didn't have this issue, but I believe if you had a pretty skinny drive shaft, it is still clear. But what I'm going to do, it's kind of what I was wanting to do from the beginning, just for looks, is I bought the Trail King diamond offset front axle case, and that's going to put the pumpkin over one way so it's more in line, has a better drive shaft angle, and it won't rub the transmission anymore. I got that. I also got the rear axle and a overdrive pitch and ring gear for the front, and in the next video we're going to put that together and install it. And I also have the King shocks I bought for this. I need to assemble and fill and install them also. But yeah, let me know what you think. Turned out a little different than I wanted, but in the end I was still able to make it clear and fit. Would I recommend it? Yeah, but for anything else, yeah, but for this particular Jeep body, I would spend the extra money and get the metal SSD transmission. It's just a lot less trouble to deal with making it fit in this body. But yeah, let me know if you have any questions. Let me know in the comments down below, and keep a lookout for the next video where we finish up on this thing with the Pro 44 axles. And thanks for watching.